Hi, it's Pastor Jeff Elliott again from Cape May Lutheran Church. We continue in our Bible study with John's Gospel, and we've arrived at John chapter 2. We have so far reviewed the prologue, the call of the first disciples, the witness of John the Baptist, and the introduction of the character Nathanael. And now, with all that behind us in chapter 1, we come to chapter 2, which begins where John, the author of John's Gospel, picks up with one of his sources, which is the famous book of signs, the group of miracles that run from the wedding at Canaan in Galilee through the raising of Lazarus from the dead. This is the first of the signs, the wedding at the miracle at Canaan in Galilee. It involves the introduction of the woman who is the mother of Jesus, not named Mary in John's Gospel, but the mother of Jesus, whom we, of course, know as Mary from the Synoptic Gospels. This is an interesting miracle in the sense that Mary, when the wine runs out at the wedding at Cana in Galilee, they go to the mother of Jesus, the steward, the head of the feast, the servants go to Mary and ask what to do. They've been invited, Jesus and his disciples have been invited to a wedding at Cana in Galilee. The wine gives out, and the mother of Jesus says to him, they have no wine. So why is this Mary's concern? Why does she now come to Jesus? Is she somehow a guest at the wedding, or is she more than that? Is she a relative of one of the people involved in the wedding? Is this a wedding from a near relative of Jesus, one of his brothers or sisters, is sometimes what is conjectured. I don't think from the text there's a way of knowing that. Certainly Jesus is respectful when he says, "O woman, what have you to do with me? My hour is not yet come." He's not being derogatory. That's a term of respect when he uses that word, woman in the Greek, and what's really being spoken of there is his hour as his enthronement on the cross, which will come later on. That's a theme used often in John's Gospel, 7, 8, 12, 13, 17. It appears relatively frequently throughout the Gospel, and we see that here, where we're talking the hour of Jesus, what he's come for. Remember, Jesus in John's Gospel has come into the world for the purpose of dying on the cross, and so he has a different self-understanding. There's never a doubt. He doesn't ask the cup to pass from him in the Garden of Gethsemane. He does not think in those terms. This is the moment for which he has come, and he embraces that fully. He doesn't have to struggle in Gethsemane with the prayer of wishing that this cup could pass from him. So, but this hour is not yet come, but she tells the servants, do what he tells you to do. And of course, he performs the first of the miracles and turns the water into wine. This is water, a huge amount of water, used for ceremonial purposes, not hygienic purposes. And this is the people don't know where the wine came from. The steward does not know where it came from. The person in charge of the marriage does not know where it came from. But he's amazed that the host normally serves the good wine first, and then when everybody's had enough to drink, he'll serve the bad wine. But this host has reserved the best wine for last. So Jesus produces not just wine, but the best wine. Bishop Spong, in his book, goes into a long history of Mary at this point and the role that Mary plays as a character in John's gospel. I think that's a little too weighty, quite frankly, for what happens in John's gospel. That's fair play for what happened in the other places. But the Mother of the Lord is her official title in John's gospel. She only makes 2 appearances at the wedding at Canaan in Galilee, and then by the cross, when Jesus says to the beloved disciple, not named John, but the disciple whom Jesus loved, to take care of his mother. He says to his mother, "Woman, behold your son," and to the beloved disciple, "Behold your mother." So he puts his mother into their care. You wonder why that would be if James and others, James becomes the Bishop of Jerusalem, the head of the church at the time was based in Jerusalem, so he becomes the leader of the church after Jesus, even in Acts, which suppresses that somewhat. We wonder if he has several brothers and sisters living at the time, why excuse me, the beloved disciple would be the one into whose care the mother would be given. It would not be a relative, it would not be another son, because it would be self-evident that, of course, this is your son, and your son will care for you after I am gone. So it must be a non-relative in the Gospel of John that she's being given into the care of. So that's significant. We'll get more into that at the time when that comes up. But for now, the wedding at Canaan in Galilee is followed here by an interesting story when Jesus now, unlike in the other Gospels, there's the Passover is at hand. And so Jesus goes up to Jerusalem. And he goes up more than once in John's Gospel. The Synoptic Gospels have the Galilean ministry at the Transfiguration. He sets his face to go to Jerusalem. He goes down from the Mount of Transfiguration down to Jerusalem, expecting his crucifixion, expecting his death, foreshadowing it several times in his words that he speaks to his disciples when he talks about carrying the cross. And here he goes early and does the cleansing of the temple, which is usually associated with the last week of his life. His triumphant entry into Galilee on Palm Sunday, what we celebrate as Palm Sunday, triumphant entry into Jerusalem, rather, on Palm Sunday, and then his teaching in the temple, his arrest and trial and crucifixion, all that, what we call the Passion story, from Passion Sunday or Palm Sunday through Easter, the readings that we do at that time, the Passion story, which is the core of the first Gospel, Mark, which is written, and then the teaching is kind of added on as a preamble to the Passion. Here, the event which many people would say stands behind the arrest, or the event that gets the Roman authorities upset, and the temple authorities upset. The cleansing of the temple is placed early on in the ministry. So he cleansed the temple, some would say, more than once. This was something that happened at least twice. I think that the important thing to remember here is that Jesus is standing against religion as a commodity, that we're not to understand our religious faith as to be something that can be bought and sold, or that people do it to make money or to keep themselves. That's incredibly important. He's rebelling against that attitude that the temple is to be used for the making of money, which was, of course, what the Sadducees had done, as reduced it to more or less a money-making scheme. As the charge that was made now, again, none of us are alive at the time. Certainly it was a huge financial enterprise, and it's fair to say Jesus was highly critical of that. I think any reading of an historic Jesus would have to include that he was critical of the temple hierarchy in the presentation of Jesus in the Gospels. That's for certain. Whether that goes back to the original substrata is up for debate, but I think that certainly to me this is central to the understanding of who Jesus was and what the whole Christian faith was about, as being opposed to the commercialization of religion, but the making of money from religion. I think that's fair to say. And it ends with some interesting verses, which we will read those few because they're passed over so often. Now, when he was in Jerusalem at the Passover feast, many believed in his name when they saw the signs which he did. But Jesus did not trust to them, because he knew all men and needed no one to bear witness of man, for he himself knew what was in man. So this is again that same theme we saw early on with Nathanael being one who will believe because of the sign that is shown him, with Thomas at the end of the gospel believing because of the sign that is shown him when he says, put your fingers in my hands and you put your hand on my side, and don't be unbelieving but be believing. This is what a central issue to the writer of John's gospel. Any faith which rests on signs and not on the one to whom the signs point is a shallow faith, is an unstable faith. A deeper, more mature faith, a second level of faith, depends not on signs, on actually seeing the resurrected Christ, but on believing because of the testimony of those who came before him, believing without seeing, without signs. And so that's a more mature, more stable faith in the eyes of the writer of John's gospel.